Right, in this video, I'm going to provide you with the explanation for the homework questions from assignment 1.3. Okay, let's start off by looking at these questions. Right, so step number one, if you remember Mr. Poya's, the 4 steps of problem solving. Step number one is to understand the problem. Right, and if you read the questions carefully, there are 2 printers. Printer A prints 60 pages every X minutes. So X minutes meaning could be 2 minutes, could be 3 minutes, could be 4 minutes, right? So what we need to do is to write down the expression in terms of X for the number of pages printed by printer A in 1 minute, right? So this is how we go about doing it. Right, let's start off with printer A. Right, so in X minutes, it can print 60 pages. Right, so therefore in 1 minute, you can print actually 60 over X pages. So that's for printer A. Now let's look at printer B. So printer B has a slower speed. It will take 2 minutes longer than printer A to print 60 pages. So what happened now is for printer B. Yes, that will be the answer for part 1. So now let's look at part 2. So for printer B, right, instead of X minutes, it will be X plus 2 minutes. And X plus 2 minutes will print 60 pages. So therefore, 1 minute, it will print 60 over X plus 2 pages. Right, let's look at part 3. So what happened is when both printers are in use, right, they are able to print a total of 144 pages in 1 minute. Right, so you have to imagine that 2 printers are doing the job, right, simultaneously, right, and therefore they're able to print 144 pages in 1 minute. Right, so we're asked to write an equation in X to represent these informations, right, and show that it simplifies to the quadratic equations given on the screen. Right, so we have found from part 1 and part 2, right, the number of pages that printer A can print and the number of pages that printer B can print in 1 minute. So we're going to add these 2 informations together and equate it to 144 pages. Right, so that is for 1 minute. Right, so what do? We have to combine the two fractions on the left hand side into one fraction. So we find the common denominator, which is X bracket X plus 2, right? And then you take 60 multiplied by X plus 2, right? And for the second one is 60 times X. Simplify the numerator, expand it. Also expand the denominator. Write 144 as 144 over 1 as a fraction because we're going to use the shortcut. We're going to do a cross multiply here. But before we do that, we can simplify the numerator to get 120x plus 120 multiplied by 1. So basically this is what happened. We take this guy, multiply with this, right, to get 120x plus 120. The equal sign, just bring it down, and then 144 multiply with this, right, to get what we have there, 144 bracket x squared plus 2x. Okay, so let's continue to expand the left hand side, right, and then we bring every terms to the left hand side to form the quadratic equations. Then the next step is you can factorize it out. You can factorize 24, right, and then you divide both sides by 24. That will gives you 6x squared plus 7x minus 5 equals to 0. Right, because 0 divided by 24 gives you 0. Okay, so this is part 3. Alright, so now we asked to solve this equation, the quadratic equation. Although quadratic formula is a very useful formula, it sometimes involves a few more steps more than if you use factorization. So try to use factorization first. If not, then you use quadratic formula. Usually, if the questions require you to use quadratic formula, it's when the questions will say that the answer need to be expressed with 2 decimal places. When the answer is not exact, then you may use quadratic formula. Otherwise, this quadratic equation can be factorized into 2x minus 1 and 3x plus 5 equals to 0. So we apply the AB product rule, right? And then you get x equals to half or x equals to negative 5 over 3. Here you ask to solve the equations only, so do not reject any answer at all. Okay, so now let's go on to the next part. The last part is hence find the time taken by printer B to print 144 pages. Okay, right. So let's go back to what x represent. X represent the time taken, right? So we have to reject x equals to negative 5 over 3 because time is a positive value, right? So we need to substitute x equals to half with half minutes, right, into x plus 2. Because from part 2, printer B took x plus 2 minutes. So that will gives you 2.5 minutes. And printer B took 2.5 minutes to print 60 pages in 2.5 minutes. Okay, if you go back to look at the questions, printer B took 2.5 minutes to print 60 pages. So therefore, to print one page, it will take 2.5 divided by 60. And to print 144 pages, it will be 2.5 over 60 times 144 give you 6 minutes. So therefore, printer B will take 6 minutes to print 144 pages. Right, so this is how we solved these questions. Right, let's look at another question. In this question here, you're given a commemorative structure, and this is in the shape of a square-based pyramid. And it has a scale of 1:100. So what it means is that on the diagram, right, if you have a certain length that's 1 cm, in real life, okay, it will be 100 cm. So on the diagram, if it's a 2 cm stuff, then real life will be 200 cm. This is what you mean by 1:100. Okay, so we are given a diagram, but this diagram shows only one of the lateral faces. Okay, so what it will be good if you can have a picture of this square-based pyramid, an image of how this square-based pyramid looks like. Okay, so if you look at this picture, it actually, a square-based pyramid actually have 4 lateral faces. 4 of them, they are actually congruent, they are the same, and you have a square base. All right, so we're going to use one of them and label it as ABC. All right, so you have the vertical height as x plus 5, and here recognize that the length of AB is equals to the AC, therefore I can divide 2x, into x and x. Okay, so we're going to find the area of ABC. So to find the area of ABC, you can just use half base times height. Okay, I'm going to explain how I get x here. All right, so half times 2x, right, 2x as 2x over 1. Then you can multiply your numerator, that will give you 2x. Multiply your denominator, that will give you 2. And therefore, 2 divided by 2 will be 1. That's how I end up getting x. And then you can use x to multiply with x plus 5, expand it to get x squared plus 5x. So that is for one lateral face. If you look at the diagram, there will be 4 of them. So you need to times 4, right, to get 4x squared plus 20x. And because we're finding the total surface area, we need to add the area of your base, which is a square. So area of the square is length times breadth, which is 2x times 2x give you 4x squared. So if you add all this area up, that will give you a total of 8x squared plus 20x. Right, so look at part 2. You're given that the total surface area of the model is 50 cm squared, 50 cm squared. Right, so what we can do is we can just equate. We have already found the total surface area in terms of x to be 8x squared plus 20x. Just equate it equals to 50. Right, you can factorize 2 out. on both sides of the equations, and you end up getting 4x squared plus 10x equals to 25. Bring everything to the left hand side. It gives you 4x squared plus 10x minus 25 equals to 0, which is exactly what the questions require you to find. And then you just end it off by saying shown. Okay, because you have actually show the steps on how you can derive the quadratic equations as required in the question. Now let's look at part 3. Part 3 is just to solve it. Right, just to solve it is rather easy. In this case here, you can use your quadratic formula because the answer given is not the exact value. Okay, you can't actually factorize it using factorization, using the cross method. So you have to use quadratic formula, right? And you express it to 3 significant figure. Usually it will be good to have an answer which is expressed to 4 significant. Final answer is usually 3 significant, but it is good to have one answer that is 4 significant because you will need to use the answer for other parts of the questions. All right. Okay, so if you look at part 4, we need to explain why one of the solutions in part 3 must be rejected as the length of BC. Now, so the length of BC has to be a positive value, right? So therefore, x equals negative 4.05. Definitely, because remember BC is 2x. If you take 2 times negative 4.05, you end up getting a negative value. So therefore, you need to reject x equals to negative 4.05. Okay, that's how you explain it. Okay, that's how you explain that you need to reject x equals to negative 4.05 because then the value of BC will not be a positive value. All right, so how do we find part 5? All right, so we asked to find the actual floor area in meter squared. So let's go back to your ratio. The ratio given is 1:100. So it means 1 cm represent 100 cm, right? We're going to convert your 100 cm, the actual length. So what you can do is you can actually write this as actual. Here it's model. So we're going to convert 100 cm to 1 meter. So what happened is if it's the unit it's 1 cm on the model, then the actual length will be 1 meter. And we're going to convert this. This is linear scale. This is called linear scale. So we're going to convert it to the area scale. So how do I get 1 cm squared? 1 cm squared is 1 times 1. So 1 times 1, 1 cm times 1 cm gives you 1 cm squared. And you do it also for the 1 meter. So 1 meter times 1 meter also gives you 1 meter squared. All right, so the actual floor area, okay, the floor area refers to your base area, which is the square, which is 4x squared. So you substitute your x to be 1.545. So this is what I mean by you should have a intermediate answer expressed to 4 significant figure, because you will use it here to do further calculation, right? And then use a calculator, you work out to be 9.5481 cm squared, right? If you go back to your ratio, 1 cm squared model is actually 1 meter squared actual. So that one you can convert it to the actual length will be 9.55 meter squared. Actual length, actual floor area. Okay, right. So that's all, folks. Right.